Mind your own self-business. Hello, B-Side Queens. Welcome or welcome back to the channel, where we believe that the record is not over yet. So Queens, I have come to the conclusion that some of us need to start minding our own business. Now hold on, because I'm not talking about minding your business the way the grandma used to say it, stay out of grown folks' business. I'm talking about something a little different. I'm talking about what I call minding my own self-business. Yes, your own self-business. Because somewhere along the way, we became entirely too invested in things that have absolutely nothing to do with us. We know who's divorcing, who's dating, cheated, who got arrested, canceled, gained weight, lost weight, who's feuding, who's no longer speaking, who said what about whom, and Lord help us, we know what somebody we have never met said underneath somebody else's Facebook post at 11:47 last night. Meanwhile, have you checked on yourself? Because while we're keeping up with everybody else's business, our own self-business is sitting over there with a stack of paperwork saying, excuse me, whenever you get a minute. And Queens, we need more than a minute, because the world has become very, very good at distracting us from ourselves. Celebrity culture can have us emotionally invested in people who wouldn't recognize us if we were standing directly in front of them. Social media gives us access to everybody's opinions, arguments, vacations, marriages, divorces, children, dinner plates, and people's particular type of foolishness. Politics has become a 24-hour emotional roller coaster, and then we have the realities of everyday life. The cost of groceries, housing, insurance, utilities, fuel, trying to stretch a dollar until poor George Washington just needs to go to physical therapy. That is enough right there to deal with. So I had to ask myself, how much emotional real estate am I allowing things that I cannot control to consume my time? That's a different question. Because everything you know about does not require your emotional participation. Let me say that again. Everything you know does not require your emotional participation. You can be informed without being consumed, care without caring, have an opinion without entering every argument, and you can see foolishness without applying for a position in it. Some things simply do not require you. I think we've forgotten that. There was a time when you didn't know everybody's business, and you know what? Somehow we survived. If somebody in California had an argument with somebody in New York, you didn't know anything about it, did you? And you slept just fine. Now somebody you never met says something ridiculous on the internet, and you're walking around the kitchen and you're mad. You are mad. You are opening the refrigerator with the attitude, slamming the door shut, and the person you're mad at doesn't even know you exist. Queens, that is expensive, because your attention, peace, and energy, they're valuable. And at this stage of my life, I am becoming much more particular about what and who gets access to any of them. That does not mean that I don't care about the world, because I do. I care deeply. But caring about something and surrendering my peace to it are two entirely different things. And that's where self-business comes in. My self-business asks, what am I doing? How am I doing? What needs my attention? Is there something I've been putting off? What's happening with my finances, in my home, with my personal and business relationships? What am I feeding my mind? What am I doing with the gifts that God gave me? Am I taking care of the life I keep asking God to bless? Because sometimes we want God to enlarge our territory when we haven't even cleaned up the territory that we already have. We're monitoring everybody else's garden while ours needs watering. That's self-business. And sometimes minding your self-business means realizing that something may be important, but it's not your assignment. That family disagreement may not be your assignment. That grown child's decision, you can offer them wisdom, but it still may not be your assignment. Though that friend who keeps making the same choice after asking for the same advice again, definitely may not be your assignment. That argument underneath the Facebook post, Queen, please, keep scrolling. You don't have to attend every argument that you're invited to, correct every person who is wrong, or explain yourself to everybody who misunderstands you. And you certainly don't have to sacrifice your blood pressure trying to straighten out somebody who enjoys being crooked. Sometimes the most powerful thing that you can say is, that has nothing to do with me, and keep it moving. Because there is another side to minding your own self-business. Sometimes other people's business becomes a distraction because dealing with our own business requires something from us. It's much easier to discuss somebody else's relationship than to examine our own. Criticize somebody else's spending than look at our bank statement. Easier to talk about somebody else's children than to have the uncomfortable conversation with our own children. To spend 3 hours scrolling through somebody else's life than to spend 30 minutes on building our own. Now that's where it really gets uncomfortable, because distraction doesn't always look like distraction. It may look like information, sometimes entertainment or concern. It may even look like helping. But ask yourself, is this mine to carry? If the answer is no, put it down. Queens, we only have so much time. And when you reach a certain season of life, you begin to understand that time isn't something to casually throw around. I don't want to spend the next chapter of my life arguing with strangers, monitoring celebrities, comparing myself to women on social media, getting angry every time somebody says something ridiculous, allowing a news cycle to determine whether I have a good day. There's too much life left to live. There are places I still want to go, things I still want to create, people I want to love, things I want to learn, work I believe God still has for me to do. I don't have enough time left to waste it in somebody else's business. And neither do you. So maybe we need a little self-business audit. Before you give something your attention, ask, does this affect my life? Can I do something meaningful about it? Is my involvement necessary? Is this worthy of my peace? And perhaps the biggest question of all, what in my own life needs the energy that I'm about to give this? Because your life, it deserves attention too. Your dreams deserve some of that attention. Health, finances, home, personal, business relationships, they deserve some. Your purpose and your peace most certainly deserve some. So the next time somebody calls you with a whole lot, before you pull up a chair and start investigating, before you head to Facebook to see what happened, ask yourself, is this my business? And if it isn't, smile, wish everybody well, and get right back to minding your own self-business. Because, Queens, we have spent enough time keeping up with everybody else. It's time to keep up with ourselves. The world will continue doing what the world does. People will talk. And in the words of my mother-in-law, Sabrina Nelson, people just be peopling. Celebrities, they will celebrity. Politicians will politic. Social media will social media. And foolishness will never suffer from a shortage of volunteers. You don't have to be one of them. Protect your attention, your energy, and your peace. And take care of the life God gave you to live, because the record is not over yet. And we've got entirely too much life left to spend on the B-side playing somebody else's record. So stay on the B-side. I said it before and I'll say it again. The record is not over yet.